Hello, Salt and Pepper Beard here. I just wanted to reach out today and talk a little bit about something that has to do with me. I know that I had been posting some things about pets, and I want people to know a little bit about who I am and what I care about, and the pets are certainly one of them, and I enjoy them, and I wanted to share a little bit about some of the things that tickle me or things that I enjoy about my pets that I wanted other people to see. And, as I'm doing this, as I'm posting things and I'm doing things, I just want people to understand some other things about me that are that I find interesting. Maybe somebody else does too. They want to give their comments or talk about. And one of the things that's kind of a me thing is movies. I'm a movie buff. I have been all my life. I much maybe to the chagrin of my wife, who will roll her eyes because she's not the one who can sit and get lost for 8 hours in a movie binge of watching things. And I'm just one of those guys. I can do it. I love it. I get immersed in it. I take a lot away from it. I I get lost in it. I pay attention, and it just takes me away. I love movies. I always have. And I wanted to start a little bit of a thread to see what anybody else might want to say. I know there are a lot of people who have their own opinions, and you're allowed to, and that's perfectly fine. I just want to make sure that I give you my opinions about, since I'm a movie guy, what I feel like are some movies that are strong on my list of the things that I watch. And I just want to preface a little bit by saying that when it comes to movies, based on my beliefs, based on who I am, I don't watch R-rated movies uh, anymore. I don't watch R-rated movies. I will watch them if they are edited. There are some TV, streaming channels that will show you edited versions. Where they cut a lot of some of the unnecessary things out, where somebody like me can watch it and still enjoy it and enjoy the story and take something away from it and maybe even relive some of the nostalgia of some of the movies that I watched when I was younger. But I don't really watch in that format now. So just with a grain of salt, there may be some movies that I don't speak about just because I haven't seen it. They haven't showed it. They haven't put it in a format where I can watch it. Um, so hopefully, that I don't miss on anything, or hope nobody takes any offense to that. I'm coming with the things that have affected me that I really like. I'm going to start with a top 10, and I might give a couple of honorable mentions at the end. And you're more than welcome to chime in and give me your opinions. And you may not agree with my list, but I'd be interested to know what your list is. Because a good movie, a really good movie, is a good movie. And it's hard to deny that or argue it for whatever sense or term or reason that somebody has for saying that's something that they enjoy, something that they like. So here we go. We're going to start with mine. Number 10. This is a movie that I have seen several, I mean, so many times. And it's one of those that it's nice, it's fun, it's family friendly, it and it shows up all the time in places, and you almost can't help it when it comes up. Is The Princess Bride. Now, there are some dudes that I know, friends of mine, that would probably disagree with this, or I've talked to some people where it's one of those movies that there are a few people that you say that you really like something like that, and they almost just throw up in their mouth a little bit because they just don't. It's not their thing, and that's fine. That's fine. For me, I can't think of a better immersive, fun-filled tag along, ride along story uh, with some feel good in it, but laced with sarcasm and fun. And then The Princess Bride. I'm sorry, it's an instant classic. For I believe it's a Rob Reiner film, but just from the standpoint of flow and timing and something that seems so dorky and could be goofy and it works. It brings you along. It takes you on a journey and it develops these characters and turns them into something that you can relate to. A fairy tale thing usually seems like a far and away deal, but this movie actually brings them into your backyard. It turns them into something that you can relate to and laugh with and feel with. And even with Fred Savage, when he starts with this story, he's like, whoa, 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 whoa. You're gonna do this story? Are you kidding me? I don't need that mushy gushy, and I don't need I'm not the thing. But more like pirates, rockets, soldiers, blah blah blah. But as the movie goes along, what he sees is that he can relate to what's happening, to where it taps into some of the emotions that he was denying himself at the beginning, and that's what happens with the audience. It's just a fantastic, feel good, even with some of the one-liners, or even with some of the comedic timing. Oh my goodness, man, you've got to be kidding me. How could you not love a movie like this? It's just one of those things where every nothing gets boring. It's around every turn. There's the next kind of feel good, funny, um, relatable story, and these characters. It's not just one. All of them. There's like 10. How do you develop that many characters that well, where you can feel something for every single one of them? Nobody really stands out as the one character that you relate to. You feel like you can relate to all of them. You got the Dread Pirate Roberts, you've got the princess, you've got the two robbers. You got the smart guy and the giant and the swordsman. Uh, you know, even the old broke down magician. Billy Crystal plays that. I mean, all of those things. And then you got Prince Humperdinck, and then you've got the sheriff, the bad guy that makes everything work. And okay, had to take a detour. When the wife calls, you don't hang up and you don't ignore it. So duty called, and I'm back. So here we go again. And we left off with Princess Bride was talking about that one, and I think I've said enough about that one. Just all around a good feel good movie. Um, even one of the lines from it, I do at home where we, it's the joke, right? We go, "Hello, my name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die." We all do it. We love it. Uh, nobody doesn't know what that means when we start into that. And we all get a kick out of it. Anyway, okay, number nine. Uh, Number nine is one of those movies that I think it. I have an appreciation for a movie that can take something that would be considered kind of theory and turn it into an actual, story where it's believable. It's Interstellar. Man, what a fantastic movie. It's one that's, especially for a kind of a nerd, like a sciencey, science fiction kind of a guy. If you're a science fiction person that can still have your heartstrings pull, man, this is the movie. You can't beat this. Like you could watch it over and over and over again, and it seems like you kind of learn something every single time. You know, Michael Caine, great actor. McConaughey, of course, makes the movie fantastic in this uh, movie, and the supporting cast and characters they don't miss. They all carry their share of the drama and the action and the connection. I guess maybe for me connection is a big thing. But with this movie, that you connect to the characters, but you connect to the mission. You connect to the urgency. You connect to the need. It's one of those things where they're fighting for humanity's right to continue to exist. But it does more than that. It ignites what it is that we consider to be the reason that humanity should exist. It appeals to all of those things that drive us to be the best that we can be and find the best in ourselves and and drive against that the same hope that we all carry, that things are going to work out and hope for. I this is just one of those films that you can't go wrong with it, in my personal opinion. You got people that are like the feel goodies. There is some feel goody in there. Maybe not as much as you might assume. There are people that like the emotional connection stories. This has got that. If the science is in there, it's interesting for somebody like that. But this movie's got plenty of heart, so much heart. And then you got the people that are the science guys, and even if they have troubles dealing with the emotional stuff, if they can bear it to go through and watch this one, because this story rocks when it comes to a science movie that has guts. This one nails it. I think that the principle of them trying to find a place, a home for themselves, and then finding, dealing with the whole how do we find our way, even if we can find it, how do we get there? Um, just there, it's all over the place. It's just littered with bringing theory to life about certain things that you see, space anomalies, how things would work, what a wormhole would look like, how an interaction would feel like that actually allows us to go past anything that we understand. It's pretty cool stuff. I just love it. It's just start to finish. Great, great, great movie. Okay, number 8. This is generally for, especially for the science fiction guys. This is an all time. It's a home run hitter. It's 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 the uh, what do you call it? It's the peak. It's the summit of everything that your science fiction guys talk about is Empire Strikes Back. Star Wars in general is just a great, great set of films. I mean, they've fallen off a little bit here lately, and the storytelling has been a little rough and sketchy, and some of us that are not the hardcore subscribers have probably fallen by the wayside a little bit. But I'm an old school Star Wars guy from way back, and of the original Star Wars, which a lot of us tend to think were the best ones. The Empire Strikes Back, far and away, the best one. It carried the heightened intensity, the the scenes, the depth of the characters, the way that the interactions happened in Luke trying to figure out and get a feel for where he was at, on his journey as a Jedi, the interactions between him and Leia and Han, and then you got Lando Calrissian coming in, and then Luke starting to increase his interaction with Vader and understanding who he was and learning more about himself and learning more about his history and his genealogy with his family and all of that taking place also with that that kind of the depth of what's happening. Starts off with the ice planet and all of the things that are going on there. Just really cool stuff. For back then, the effects were fantastic. The characters were building and growing at that time, and the understanding of where things were at with the Empire, and they're starting to get a feel for the fact that the Empire's dealings were going just bigger than the Death Star, and they had bigger plans and the the other things that were in play, and in Luke deciding that he was going to pursue his growth as a Jedi. It just completely, the whole interaction with Yoda and everything that was going on there, just I mean his growth and learning and trying to understand who he was and battling against that deep-seated, evil wanting to come to the forefront, but he has to continue to battle with the light coming out, that good versus evil, that light versus darkness was never more prevalent than was in this film. I just thought that everything about it was, beautiful and great to watch, and fun, and it's one that I'll still, it comes up, I'll watch it, no problem. Just love it, and I know a lot of people agree with me. Okay, number 7. Number 7, The Dark Knight. Now I might actually put this up higher than I did, but there's some nostalgic, pretty strong contender movies that I have higher up that I couldn't wrestle them down to do this one. But this movie is impactful. This movie is dark. Without being too um, without being too graphic, without being too crazy with the gore and nastiness. It taps into and helps you understand the principle of a dark nature, and that loss of humanity that drives certain people to, I guess, I think in one of the lines in the movie was, some people uh, just want to watch the world burn. That loss of an urge to be part of humanity, just to see it burn to the ground, and battling against that, with something that starts off, that's brute force based, but learning that there are limits to how far that goes, because there's still an element of decency and humanity even in a dark hero. I think all of those things, are play into this. And it was a great story, and not to mention the fact that Heath Ledger, there, you could not have picked a better person to play that part. He was mesmerizing, mesmerizing to watch. I mean, he had it together, start to finish. From what I read, heard, listened to some commentary and things from the people that had worked with him. They had mentioned the fact that he lived basically in character for hours and hours and hours and hours. That he would try and set himself in the way that he postured himself and he positioned himself, and his face movements and the mouth, and that kind of every once in a while he did the with the tongue thing, and the way that he talked when he not, the all of that, he lived it, he absorbed it, and he exuded it. I just feel like it may have been one of the best, knowing who Heath Ledger was and most of the things that he did before that, it may have been one of the best performances that anybody has ever had. um, Especially, pulled off or transformed into, that I've ever seen. um, just amazing. But I think the whole premise of how, um, people people have the ability to flip if they're pushed hard enough, but ultimately the hope is that man is still good enough, that you can rely on the fact that they can call on their decency and rise above it. Just a great film. I loved it. Number 6. This one, this one is one of those R-rated movies that I could watch on edited versions. It would be on BBC America, and they edit pretty much anything out that would be unacceptable. Um, but A Few Good Men. A Few Good Men. This is a film that I didn't expect to. When I first saw it, I didn't expect it to wow me as much as it did. I mean, um, Tom Cruise, I I don't necessarily always follow all of his stuff, but he's got some things that he's done that I do really, really like. And he's got some roles that he's done. I'd say he's probably in that 50-50 category, maybe 60-40 category of things that, he's had certain roles where he's knocked it out of the park. There are a lot of other things that he does because, he can do it and it's a money grab and a cash cow and it's great, for Hollywood, but for me, there's not quite as much, but there are certain things that he's done where he's just knocked it out of the park. This is one of them. This story about the two soldiers that are on trial for murder for um, what they call it, Code Red uh, initiative on one of their fellow troop members who dies during the execution of the Code Red. Man, there are some really gutty performances in here, and I I feel like that the whole principle of ultimately understanding that nothing is what it seems. Power is power. The general, Jack Nicholson in this, playing, or the colonel, I think, no, the general, um, but him playing that part, not necessarily a standard part that he's done, but he did it very, very well. He showed what power, in its truest sense looked like, which is power is control. And he operated in control, and everything about the way he, handled his speech, handled his actions was control, and power was power, regardless of what it was fighting against, what was in opposition to it. The power was power, and absolute power can corrupt, absolutely. Um, and the challenge of what's going on. One second. Okay, I'm back. Sorry, had to take a hiatus from this. This seems to be about distractions about keeping me from getting this done. So here we are again. Different change of clothes. You can see we had to take a break. Uh, had to come back to it. So let's pick back up where we left off. I was talking about A Few Good Men. I think the big thing to say about this is uh, it's 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 emotionally driving. It's clever. It's whimsical at times. I think that you look at the principle of power being the corrupter, and the you know Tom Cruise playing this hotshot attorney who's never really been in a courtroom, but living, with the memory of an expert litigator in his father, and trying to live up to that, but realizing that he has to go his own way is awesome. He plays it out well. Watching him grow through the movie and struggle through even understanding who he is, what he wants to do, and then just seeing the way this character shows even a strength that maybe his father didn't even have, or a gutsiness, a daringness, a willingness to be, aggressive or clever in ways that maybe his father was not. Um, finding his fire and using it to call out the places where power has already been established, that it won't be bent, it won't be moved, and finding a way to bend it. Um, Great interaction with him and Kevin Bacon and the two soldiers uh, that are on trial, and going through it takes you through the ups and downs of how this trial plays out and what it looks like, how something is about to play out, and then there's a catastrophic failure in the case, and they have to find their way through it and navigate that, and a lot of learning about you know the human, the human condition and what drives a person to respond the way that they do, and what can cause them to grow. I thought it was just a fabulous movie. Okay. Anyway, back to the list. I That was number six. Number five. Uh, Anybody that I'll probably post other things on here, but I'm a Marvel guy. I love Marvel movies. I watch them. I follow them. I'm kind of, I guess I'm kind of a dork where that's concerned. I don't read all the comic books, but I've read when I was younger. I've read enough, and I know enough about these storylines that when Marvel Studios started making these films, I was instantly hooked. Uh, so I probably a little biased, but all of the things that have been going on when Marvel was building up their original, the studios were building up their original list of characters, and they were moving towards the Avengers. I loved that concept anyway. It's great for me. I was rooting for it. But when it came to the gauntlet, the Infinity Gauntlet, and when it finally came to fruition that they pulled this off when they bring Thanos into the picture, Avengers Infinity War was, uh, I mean, as far as just being able to take something just just huge, and pull it together and turn it into something that you can follow, that you can relate to, that you can build off of. Just a phenomenal job from the Russo brothers doing this. What a fantastic story! Just watching Thanos navigate his activity within the Avengers space and basically have his way, and never hesitate to keep doing what he had planned on doing before and not letting anything slow him down. It was a dominating performance. Great, great overlay by Josh Brolin. All of the characters got ample time in the interaction. The story of the you know moving around, trying to keep track of this, basically this war happening on multiple fronts, was great, man. The whole how do we stay in front of this concept and the principle, just crazy, crazy, crazy. Um, Watching Thor try and reestablish himself um, after his catastrophic failure, um, with uh, uh, with his home world, uh, and then wanting to do something specific, uh, be the hero, do what he wanted to do, and creating Stormbreaker, and watching this whole struggle of Bruce Banner not being able to carry any confidence, but having to rely on himself rather than the Hulk. You got Tony and his relationship with Peter Parker, and being able to carry that, and working with Doctor Strange, and talking about the manipulation of time, and how here's a genius, and he doesn't even get what's going on in this time thing, but he basically says you better be right, you know, um, and not understanding what's happening, and then the Guardians of the Galaxy coming in and joining the group. What a great movie. It was well put together. The timing was perfect. The music was fantastic. And I mean, it just carries you along. And I mean, for a movie that made what, $2.6 billion. Clearly, there are a lot of people who agreed with me, and there are a lot of people that would say that, cinematically, it was one of the better movies, probably, especially that had any CGI in it. It was made. It was, it was beautiful. It was very beautiful, and it just, it's too bad that they couldn't keep that going through, all of the Phase 5 movies. It's hard to duplicate that kind of craftsmanship. The Russo brothers did a great job. Just a fantastic movie. I love it. Okay, number four. This is an old movie. This, you know, it's a movie that doesn't, it doesn't follow the whole things going on everywhere, stuff, happening all over the place. This happens in one room, and it's 12 Angry Men. I mean, this is on top 100. Everybody's top 100, I think, has 12 Angry Men. But I gotta say, this is another one of those movies where I said, when I first watched it, I wasn't sure whether it was something that was going to do what it did to me. It was gripping. It changed my perspective on the way people think and the way they interact, and the way, not only the way they interact, but the fact that we usually have preconceived notions going into things that can be detrimental to our existence with each other. It completely overshadows our ability to rationalize what's going on. And watching this movie and watching the way these characters interacted, and this was the original, by the way, the black and white. Um, I didn't know that I could sit through 2 hours of, 12 guys just sitting in a jury room. But man, I mean, what a gripping, the interaction between the men. Henry Fonda did a great job. I mean, the whole thing of starting out with a group of people that basically already had this young man, convicted, and going from there and being the one guy that was willing to ask the question about, are we asking the right questions? Just it was one of those things that when you first see it, you don't assume that people uh, all have that same level of opinion about things, but you realize that to some extent, somewhere in the back of their mind, a lot of people are carrying opinions, and those opinions aren't just coming out about the person that was on trial here. It's coming out basically in the interactions between the people about what they might think about people in general or each other, or even the way that they may take offense to what some people think they're thinking about other things, but it really it applies to them too, and they're shining light on the fallacies of the human emotion and the human assumptions and narrow-mindedness and an inability to ask the right question. And the fact that everything this is principle is established on was supposed to be upholding one of the things that we do in the justice system, which is that you're innocent until proven guilty. It allows for that. If there's that element of doubt that you don't know, you can't say that somebody is guilty. You have to be sure in your own mind, and you can't be sure based on nothing. You have to be sure based on talking and making sure that you've heard everything that you need to hear to form a right opinion. They when they went through the evidence, when they talked about what was happening, when they talked about the nature of the boy, when they talked about the nature of his relationship with his father, fine. But when they start talking about, did you find this? Can you find a weapon that's just like this? Because they talked about how unique this switchblade was he was using, and then they found another one just like it. It was just around the corner in some shop, and then talking about, how long does it take for, old man that supposedly heard a scream, or heard somebody running to get to the door, to his own door, to see somebody running down the stairs. How, you've got an L train going by, which is causing all kinds of commotion. You've got witnesses that supposedly saw this person through the train into the window and heard a noise. There's just so many things that they were going over that were supposed to be cut and dry in the minds of most of these jurors, and they walk through these things, and just watching them, the frustration that happens and the intensity between them about just going through the facts was amazing. I was forever changed by this movie. I'll continue to watch it. The only reason why I don't have it any higher, and I've got it at four, It's just because I've got some other things that I want to bring up and put them, closer to the top for my own personal reasons. But it's a fantastic movie, and if you haven't watched it, I would suggest that from a catching up on life, catching up on perspective, it's timeless. You should watch it. You should definitely watch it. Okay, number three that was four or five? That was four. Three. Uh, Avengers Endgame. I'm sorry. I told you before I'm a Marvel nerd. I love it. I like the payoff. I mean, Infinity War was probably a better made. I will say, I mean, it was probably a better made movie from some of the thematic elements that were there. It was orchestrated flawlessly. But Endgame is more fun. Um, I it was still great. I mean, the character building and the character activities were still the interactions were still fantastic. It was very emotional, very tied. And I thought the Russo brothers still did an excellent job. Maybe not quite as good as Infinity War, but the payoff, man, for us who lived to see the payoff was worth it, man. All of the moments that you expected to see if you were the geek, they were there. They showed up. That you got to see all of the interactions between all of the characters. You got to see the full circle activity between Tony Stark and his father. You got to see the full circle activity with Steve Rogers and his past. You got to see the whole um, full circle activity of Thor coming to grips with what he felt like was his own mistake when he didn't take Thanos out to begin with. And then the ultimate parts were at the end during going into the battle scene, the final battle scene, which was Steve Rogers coming of age and fulfilling what everybody thought might happen. And if you haven't seen it, spoiler alert, uh, thought maybe what happened with Mjolnir and him being able to pick it up, which was I actually almost stood up in the theater when it happens. My wife just rolls her eyes every time she talks about it because she heard me, scooch up on my seat and say, "It's gonna happen! It's gonna happen! He's gonna pick it up!" It was awesome to see that. And then the whole when everybody comes through, the portals, and he's got all of them there, and he's like, the only thing if he'd yelled it, it would have been better, but when he says Avengers assemble, that for us that follow this kind of stuff, that was the ultimate payoff, right? That was the thing that made it all worth it, and I just loved it. I mean, I thought it was $2.9 billion later. A lot of other people loved it too, so I'm not going to feel too bad for having this in my top three. So Avengers Endgame, just watch it. Number two, this is a personal thing. I know this isn't in anybody's top 100. It might not even be in anybody's top 250. But it's my number two because I've always told everybody when they have that conversation, they go, "What movie? If you were watching a movie, what movie would you watch? Have you watched the most? What movie would you continue to watch?" For me, it's Groundhog Day. I, I know there are people who would probably think that I was nuts for saying this, but I can't help it. There are some Bill Murray things that I really love. One About Bob would be another one that it's not in my list, but it was a great movie. But Groundhog Day is one of those movies that just keeps giving for me. I could watch it over and over, just like Groundhog Day, for him comes over and over and over and over again. Just seeing that and watching that, I get a kick out of it every single time. Bill Murray is hilarious in this movie. Uh, what is it? It was her Rodney McDowell, the female part, hilarious in this movie. All that interaction is fantastic. Watching him go through his learnings and move through activities um, day after day, going through that cycle of what do I do now that I've got every single day is happening? It's the same day over and over and over again. And you know how he goes through this character building activity. He's the shallow, superficial, ridiculous, ego driven guy at the beginning that starts over time starts to realize that he has a desire that's more noble than that, a want that's more emotionally seated than that. But he doesn't know how to get there. So at first, it's I'm gonna I'm gonna try and build up, feel good about myself, about being good at things, and that kind of fades. And then he's like, well, I'm gonna try and learn how to get close to the person that I seem to be attracted to, and that doesn't work. And then what he realizes at some point is that he has to start learning how to be his best self and learn how to love his life and appreciate what's important in life, and everything else will kind of fall into place, and it does. It's a fantastic movie if you want to progress with somebody and watch them move from a place of shallowness to a place of depth. I think it's fantastic. I've always enjoyed this movie. I continue to enjoy this movie, and I'll continue to watch this movie. So, and I'd be interested to see what anybody else says about this because I love it. But it's just one that for the ages will continue to be. If I were to do this 20 years from now, it'd still be in my top 10. It'd still be in my top five. Okay, number one. Number one for me has to do with the fact that I said before I'm a faith person. Um, I'm a faith-based person, and I live for uh, I live for the opportunity to profess my faith. Um, I and this movie basically completely confirmed everything that I feel like was important in understanding who I was in my Christian walk, which is facing the giants. There's never going to be a day that I can't watch this. There's never going to be a day that I can't um, appreciate what this movie was about a person that's feeling like they're dry, they don't understand their purpose in life, supposed to be a Christian but can't quite figure out how that defines them in what they're doing as a football coach uh, at a school at a failing school that's losing. Um, frustrated with where he's at, frustrated with what he feels like is happening, and it's something that uh, one second. Boy, damn distractions. All right, back to facing the Giants. So, what I love about most about this movie is the fact that for a sports guy, it's still a fun movie to watch. It still has the elements of that sports theme that the sports goers really enjoy. But from a faith-based movie, or even for people who are exploring their faith, it's one of those movies that helps to solidify the fact that um, you got uh, the ongoing struggle to understand what faith really means. To understand that he learns that if he puts his purpose being to follow his faith, that everything else will fall into place. And what he learns is that this is absolutely true, that he can find his promise, and he didn't have to go search it out or seek it out. Once he put his faith where it needed to be, it found him. It's just one of those movies for the ages. If you're a Christian and you haven't watched it, shame on you. If you are exploring your faith, You absolutely have to watch this movie. And if you're just looking for that that understanding of even who you are, this movie is fantastic to watch. And there's what it's called a death crawl scene. This is such a gripping scene, and it's bigger. It's I mean, from a faith perspective, yeah, it's important, but even from a standpoint of understanding, don't sell yourself short. It's bigger. It's so much bigger. It transcends on so many things that that scene alone is worth it. That scene alone is worth it. It's just it's a great foundational film. It's a great film about conviction. It's a great film about learning and growth, and it's one of those movies that I can't stop watching it. I mean, it's a fantastic movie, and I would encourage anybody to go watch it. Uh, it's just absolutely my number one, and it will forever be. I think I don't think there's anything that's going to topple it. It's too big for me. Um, so that's my top 10. There are some honorable mentions I want to bring up. There are a few movies. The other thing, and I'll make this real quick. Anything Rocky. I'm that guy. I'm that dorky guy that the family goes, he watch Rocky, he do Rocky, come on, he wants all 900 Rockies, and you do watch the Rocky. Yes, I am. I watch Rocky, and I love the Rocky films. It doesn't matter, pick one. It doesn't matter. I've seen them all. I watched them all. I watched the Creed films too, and they were pretty darn good. But anything Rocky, I'll watch. It's just Stallone doesn't get enough credit for being, as brilliant as he was for coming up with this concept that can really attach itself to people. That the hometown hero, the feel good, um, you know, triumph of the human spirit thing. Um, Rocky, you can't miss with Rocky. I'm sorry, but if you don't agree with me on that, just too bad. Okay, the other one, there's a couple others that I'll mention. Moneyball. Moneyball. Um, Moneyball is one of those movies that if you're a sports guy, it doesn't really matter. It's an awesome movie to watch because it kind of gets into that, you know, thought, mentality, ego of the sports realm, the breaking through the glass ceiling, somebody who goes against the grain, and there's, everybody talks about, in politics, in business now, in sports, it's the same. There's that corporate mentality and the powers that be that say that things work the way that they work, and then there's somebody who goes against the grain. That was Billy Beane. This it was a great film to watch, and just watching the interaction with him and I can't remember his name, the one who plays the analyst, the data analyst, um, and he played Peter Brand in the movie. I can't remember Noah something. I can't remember his name. Um, but watching that interaction between them, just awesome, awesome. There were so many, those short grinning, enjoyable moments of seeing how a business, a team owner, uh, general manager interacts in his world, and nobody really understood what a general manager was about probably until this movie. But it was great to watch this and great to watch that whole bucking the system kind of thing. You always like to watch that anyway. But watching it play out was really great, and watching and it's based on a true story. It's based on a true story of I think the 2001 Oakland A's. It's just a great movie to watch and fun. It just not too fast, not too slow. Good paced, good movie. The last thing I'll mention in here is The Martian. Kind of like Interstellar, it has a lot of the theory, brought to life. Theory brought to life. Sorry, what feels like breaks in the video. Too many distractions. I just can't seem to get through this thing without having to pause for a second and come back to it. So The Martian, the theory of things coming, full circle, and the way that Matt Damon, does it, brings you along on that journey of being stranded on a planet all by yourself and having to, you know, science your way through all of this stuff. And, for there's that whole being alone thing that everybody can connect with. um, it's funny. It has quick wit. It has, kind of the drawn out humor, the exploration of the differences in people and the way that they interact. The whole, again, you have NASA, but it's corporate, kind of that corporate presence of, you know, power is power, and you're looking at somebody who's looking to buck the system, even if it's to get back home. The way that he uses science to move through the movie, to figure out how to keep himself alive, to grow food, to manage, understanding how to communicate, to get himself through it, to plan for an execution of getting himself to a place where he can get back home. All of it just works. The Martian is a great movie. I think it came out in 2015. I loved it. When it came out, I thought it was definitely one of, he's had some great movies, but I thought this was one of his stronger ones. I thought it was, he carried it. It was great. The whimsical personality comes through in everything that he does, and it feels like you're going on a journey, and you feel almost exhausted by the time it's over. And the ending part is, I don't want to give anything away for anybody who hasn't watched it, but how he gets off the planet is really awesome and funny, and actually, suspenseful and intense, and just really cool movie. I liked it a lot. But I'm sure, those are my honorable mentions to go with my top 10. I'm sure that as you're watching this, that you have your own ideas about what you think are great movies, what you think are the best ones you've seen, the ones you like to watch, and everybody's entitled to their own opinion, and I'd be interested to hear what kind of suggestions or comments somebody may have, because when it comes right down to it, it just comes down to everybody's personal opinion. It's about what suits you best, what kind of food you like to eat, what kind of movie you like to watch. So I'd love to hear back and understand what your thoughts are. If these are just my thoughts about the movies, and just glad to share it with you. And we'll be putting some more out there that have to do with me, probably some pet things, but a little bit more, just of kind of what I want in my fancy fare. So hope everybody has a great day, and have a blessed day, and talk to you soon. Take care.